Journalist Jessica Kraus, also known as House Inhabit, is searching for God in reading her Bible. We'll be talking about her spiritual journey today, as well as what is really going on between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. What is the truth behind the factions in MAHA? We will also be getting into her past conflict with Candace Owens. We'll be discussing the Karen Reed trial and so much more on today's episode of Relatable. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Olive. Olive is showing you the real ingredients in your food. They are making grocery shopping easier and more transparent. I love using the Olive app. Download the Olive app today at the App Store. Jessica, thanks so much for taking the time to join me in person. I'm so excited.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, House Inhabit. Tell us how you came up with that name.
It just goes back to the early days of blogging. I had a family blog. I used to write about life raising, 4 young boys, and I was a stay-at-home mom. So it made sense in the sense that I was locked in routine and habit of suburban domestic chores and regular life routine.
And now it still just works somehow.
Well, I also feel like it's bad luck to change names. So I'm like, it's worked through all these different phases. And so now it actually does, I think the interpretation is like, it still works in different forms, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And you just can't change it because everyone knows you by House Inhabit.
Yeah, it felt wrong. It took me a long time to decide on it. And then once I had it, I was just like, there was no calculation behind it. Me going from like a mom blogger to media.
Mm-hmm. What was the breakthrough for you from mom blogger to media?
Oh gosh. I think probably the most obvious would be the Britney Spears story. I kind of jumped from lifestyle, daily lifestyle updates to tracking really sort of obsessively the Britney Spears trial. Or not, it was before the trial. It was her, when we were trying to figure out what was going on with the conservatorship and the Free Britney movement.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is going on with her?
Well, I think now it's a lot more complicated. And I think the reason I kind of pulled away from the story was because it was so dark and sad, It's like, I think in the beginning, we all thought we were fighting for her freedom and it was as simple as that. And I think now it is a very uncomfortable situation because nobody really knows how to deal or talk about it. And so she's just kind of perpetually spinning and dancing in these videos. And it just seems like she's sort of a shell of, the pop star that we knew. Yeah. So I just feel like it's such a sad story.
Do you think that she needed that conservatorship in hindsight?
I mean, I don't want to make the call because, I don't feel like one thing I've learned is we don't always know the full story behind some of these really big cases. And I did spend time with Lynn Spears. And so I got to know a little bit about, where she was coming from and her side of the story. And it made me look at things differently based on that too. Mm-hmm. So I can't say for, what should or shouldn't be. I just think there's a lot that's been misinterpreted and communicated.
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
And you also talked about MeToo, and you had a different perspective on MeToo. And what made you interested in writing about that movement?
Well, I think the most obvious is that I have 4 boys. And so I am someone who always seeks all sides of the truth, whether, it's regarding a topic or an individual. So with Me Too, I really had an issue with like the Believe Woman slogan. And I thought there was a lot of hypocrisy in the entire movement, with Hollywood kind of rushing behind it when they were, really a part of this whole environment. And so I just thought there was a lot to examine. And I was just asking people like, is this smart? Like, do we want to believe any gender in a court case? Like, don't we go with the facts and, what is presented in that setting?
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you found out when you were writing about that surprised you?
You mean like
just about some of the people behind Me Too and Time's Up and I don't know who they worked with. It seems to me like there was probably a lot of hypocrisy, like people who worked with Weinstein were all of a sudden saying, oh yes, I've always stood up against this. And it's like, have you?
No, I think that was the part that was the biggest issue, is it really forced me to challenge my own beliefs about what I believed as far as the industry and the accusations. It's like, I covered Weinstein's first trial, and to me, there was no one you were rooting for. Like, usually in a trial, there's someone you feel has been, wronged, and you want justice. In this, it was like he was doing these things, but also the industry was enabling him, and a lot of these actresses just understood that was the way it worked. And so it was hard because there was a lot of continued communication, after these assaults. And in the case of like Jennifer Newsom, she was still emailing him asking for campaign donations for her husband. So it was, it's very, it gets really sort of layered, and it requires people to have smart discussions about it, and it's hard to do online, as you probably know. It's sometimes hard to get everyone to agree to be respectful and just discuss these things in a uncomfortable.
What gave you the gumption to start talking about things like that? Because you could have stayed as the mom blogger, which is less controversial, probably field less criticism, but you decided to wade into subjects that you knew would probably get you some heat and some blowback. And a lot of people make that calculation and say it's not worth it, but you decided that it was worth it. So why was that?
I think I made a decision that if I was going to be on the internet, I always posted what inspired me and what I believed in. And for a long time, it was, family. That's what I knew. That's the only thing that I was focused on. And as my kids got older, I was able to have, devote more time to my own interests, which is really pop culture and these trials and stuff. So to me, it's like, I would rather not be online if I'm not going to write about and express what I see. To me, I'm just interpreting the world through my lens. We're all doing it individually, and you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But this is just me saying, like, this is how I see this. What do you guys think?
Quick pause to remind you to sign up for Share the Arrows. Go to sharethearrows.com. It's brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers this year, October 11th, Dallas, Texas. It's going to be amazing. Apologist Elisa Childers. We've got Abby Halberstadt. We've got Mama Bear Apologetics, Hillary Morgan Ferrer. We've got Ginger Duggar-Volo. We've got Katie Faust. We've got Shauna Holman. We've got Taylor Dukes from Taylor Dukes Wellness, y'all. It is a stacked lineup, the most stacked lineup for Christian women's conferences. I'm so excited. Francesca Battistelli back for a second time leading us in worship. And of course, yours truly. You will leave feeling educated, edified, and so solidified in your faith and filled with so much courage as you make friends with like-minded women from across the country. Sign up now. Go to sharethearrows.com. Okay, so you're a California girl, born and raised Southern California. Would you say that you were raised progressive?
Definitely.
Definitely. And do you still consider yourself progressive?
No, because I think the definition of the word has changed. I mean, what is progressive now? Like, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I think we all have different versions.
I think, yeah, there probably are different definitions. There are a lot of people more progressive than me because I'm like as conservative as it gets. But I mean, most Democrats, I would say, are conservative when it comes to pro, LGBTQ in kids' libraries, drag queen story hour, pro Black Lives Matter, the belief that, cops are systemically racist, all of that kind of thing, I would lump under progressive and progressive social and economic policies, believing in the nanny state and all of that kind of thing.
I mean, in my head, I have an idea of what progressive is, and it I guess you're talking political definition. And no, I don't align with everything you just mentioned. I don't really align with anymore. I'm still, I still support pro-choice, even though I'm personally anti-abortion. And I did grow up under that. My mom talked to us about that growing up, and I knew that it was not something I would do, but I don't hold any judgment against my friends who have made that choice. And so in certain ways, I still, I guess, there's a couple things that I kind of, cling to, but overall, I mean, I'm categorized as, right wing now.
Now you are.
Yeah, I am.
Sure.
I think every
Categorized
headline.
as MAGA. Yes. Okay. So you're personally anti-abortion, but politically pro-choice. Can you kind of parse that out?
Wait, what was that?
So you said that you're personally anti-abortion, but you're politically pro-choice. So what does that mean?
Well, so it's, there's certain things that I'm happy to argue with people about, and abortion has never been one of them. Like when I've been on the left and I've been on the right, and I've never wanted to fight women over it. I feel like we all can decide how we feel about it. For me, I knew that I would never be able to have an abortion, and I guess I grew up that it just wasn't an option. And so with each pregnancy, I didn't do the test that you're supposed to do. It just wasn't something I could ever see myself doing. But I mean, so many of my friends have had an abortion, and nothing in me makes me want to judge them or hate them over it. I feel like it's an individual choice, and I think if you believe in a higher power, it's ultimately up to, that in the end to judge.
Yeah. My perspective is that, if they're human beings, which I think that we can all scientifically agree that they are, then they deserve human rights. And it's not a right if it's not legally protected. And so why shouldn't they have the same legal right to be protected against murder that I have? And in the same way that I wouldn't say, well, it's between you and God whether you want to murder your 2-week-old, I also wouldn't say it's between you and God, whether you can murder the baby inside your womb, because the difference between the 2-week-old and the 40-week-old in the womb is just time and location. And those don't seem like two, big enough justifications for legal murder. So that's kind of how I see it. But you're right. It is a tough I don't think it's tough, to understand, but it is a hot topic for sure, both on the left and the right. I
mean, that's why I do watch you, because I like the way you explain and defend yourself. And it's just, for me, it's not an issue that I don't feel. It doesn't make me hate women either way. I wouldn't listen to you and think like that's crazy. And I wouldn't, I'd be open to listening to another side that, it's just religion and abortion I don't want to fight about.
Yeah. You did mention a higher power, and you have talked a little bit about wanting to read your Bible and kind of thinking about that kind of stuff. So where are you on that journey?
Well, that's been sort of one thing I kept kind of private. I don't feel like everything needs to be up for internet, analysis and discussion. True. But I've just always been curious and open to different ideas of religion. And I didn't grow up in any, organized religion, but we were taught to believe in God, and so I think being on the campaign trail and being around a lot of conservatives, Christian conservatives and things, I didn't like not knowing the references to some of these things, even from a literary standpoint. Yeah. Everybody, I think, should read the Bible so that we understand how it's woven into art and everything, right?
Yeah, our politics, history, so much.
So I think it's just, there's a lot of parts to it where I do feel like I'm on a spiritual journey, and it's not really something I have to defend, because I know that I can feel it, and I know that the more I lean into it, the more rewarding it is, and the more fulfilling I feel. So that's really kind of what inspired it. Is I feel like I have to trust that there is some sort of divine path that I'm chasing.
I hear from a lot of people who previously they didn't believe, or maybe they were just agnostic, they didn't know that it was actually seen evil in whatever context. For some people, it's Hollywood. For some people, it's politics. For some people, it's in their own life, that kind of turns the light on, and they're like, oh, if there's objective evil and darkness, then there must be objective goodness and light too. Would you say, especially seeing in the world of politics, that that's been true for you?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's, sort of an underlying theme now is good and light, good and evil, and darkness and light, and what you're giving your energy to. And so I did, I came from a liberal background. I was around liberals my whole life. And it was really, even just mentioning God, it was a shunned topic. They just, it was very, you just kind of instinctively know not to bring up God and religion. So when I was on the campaign trail with the Trump team and the Kennedy team, every event, God was a, center sort of topic, and there was prayer, and people talked very openly and comfortably about their faith. And I, from someone who's not subscribed to any one religion, I did like it. I felt like it was a really cool thing to witness.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about the RFK campaign specifically. I thought it was so interesting just following you on Instagram and watching your very fair coverage, like not being afraid to talk about his scandals or how the media was portraying him, but also like you were so deeply embedded, and it seemed like friends with a lot of people on the campaign. And I always wondered, like, how does she deal with the fact that she's reporting honestly, even sometimes critically, about their campaign, but also you have these like alliances and friendships with the people in the campaign. So just tell us what that was like.
I mean, it was amazing. It's one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I was able to just sort of chase this vision I had of what campaign coverage could look like. But I could only do that because of someone like Robert Kennedy trusting me to do that. So being able to have this transparency and kind of go on the road for a year, you do get close with, campaign became sort of like family. And I could see all the working parts behind how a campaign operates. Like there's so many people who care about these issues and the messaging, and they all have different roles. And so I just loved learning about the internal workings. And I think because Bobby is such an open person and he doesn't shy away from any, controversy. He's very used to that. So I think I just, fed off of that. Like I thought we'll just go through it. We'll go through whatever scandal or whatever, whatever is thrown at him, because every day it was something. Mm-hmm. It was like a dead bear that they found in the park, or, the brain worm. It was like some of them were absurd and some of them were a little more serious and complex. But I just loved showing that we could work through them and be open about, these candidates. And I think it resonated a lot because people were able to see them from a more intimate angle.
Mm-hmm. And you were covering the affair that happened, right, during the time, which was that was something that was shocking to me. And I'm sure that it was like, that was a difficult position for you to be in at the time.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. So that was hard.
That was the journalist. I forgot her name.
Olivia Nuzzi. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was a tough one because I was friends with her and, I'm covering him. And, but the only way I could think that it made sense was just to be honest about it as we worked through it. Like I felt, betrayed by her. I felt like maybe she was a liar and, and I was angry at him. I was disappointed, not angry, but I was disappointed in him. I guess just disappointed in the whole situation because it's like we have this chance to prove so many of the things that I believe in and I want to see come into, power. Mm-hmm. And he had the opportunity. So it was like it was a rough patch and it was tricky, but everyone got through it and I'm still, connected to all parties. I respect everyone involved. And I just, again, I think I'm able to compartmentalize sort of my friendship, or my, not friendships, but I guess relationships.
Yeah.
And so there is an element of trust there where I'm not really out to get anyone. It's just I have to report on things as honestly as possible. And I did my best with that.
Mm-hmm. And what are you thinking about when you are weighing your relationships and like reporting the truth? Like, are you thinking about, okay, my allegiance is to the truth? Are you thinking about I'm indebted to my audience? Like, how are you kind of what values are you using to filter through what stories you're going to report on, even when it might have a personal element to you?
Like I said, my commitment is always to the truth and what feels right and honest at the time. And so I didn't think, I don't like to overthink things. I like to go with intuition. And so just day by day, I just posted like I would any story as it progressed, and sort of, I tried to figure out what's real and what's important. And at the end of the day, my audience did not care about, a scandal like this. They didn't care. They wanted to go back to the issues that they stand behind, that he was amplifying. Mm-hmm. And so that was sort of reassuring, like people didn't really want to get caught up, and they really believed in him. And so that's what I focused on.
Another break to tell you about 7 Weeks Coffee. 7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company. They've got amazing tasting coffee. We drink it every morning in the Stuckey home. They are dedicated to ensuring that their coffee is pesticide-free, is mold-free, is clean, is great tasting, super high quality. My favorite part about 7 Weeks, though, is that they donate 10% of every sale of their coffee to pregnancy centers across the country. This has amounted to $900,000, more than $900,000 donated to pregnancy centers across the country, which has translated into saving thousands of baby lives, with so many moms and dads served who have been loved and who have also heard the freeing gospel of Jesus Christ. It's just amazing. The reason they're called 7 Weeks Coffee is because at 7 weeks, the baby inside the womb is the size of a coffee bean, and that baby is made in the image of God, and his or her life matters. So go ahead, buy 7 Weeks Coffee, allow your coffee to serve a higher purpose. When you subscribe to their Heartbeat Club, you get 15% off your order. And when you use my code Allie, you get an extra 10% off. So go to 7weekscoffee.com, use code Allie for that discount. 7weekscoffee.com, code Allie. What is the truth, if you know it, about the feud, it seems, or disagreement, I would say, between Casey Means and Nicole Shanahan, two people I've interacted with, super respect both of their work a lot, but there seems to be something going on there where Nicole is saying Casey doesn't seem to be who she says she is. Callie obviously defending his sister, but it just seems like there was kind of a fracture of MAHA, and no one really knows exactly what is true. I didn't realize that there were those disagreements within MAHA. Did you already know that before that came to light?
I found that out later. I kept hearing, I always hear things, like I have a lot of sources, so I hear whispers and rumors and things, but I hadn't really given it much energy. I just didn't really understand it. And again, I like both of them. I like the Means siblings so much, and I love Nicole Shanahan. Mm-hmm. I think she has really great ideas, and I've liked watching her evolution from, again, like, it's relatable. She was super left, and she's sort of in front of us.
Yes,
like has,
I love it.
Pivoted. But I think what I'm learning is politics. There's a lot of egos and personal issues that can taint the common goal. And I think with this, I learned there was a lot of, I think everyone maybe has an idea about where the health movement should go from here and who should be in charge of how it happens. And so, it's always going to get a little messy with like these different perspectives and sort of grievances that maybe we don't know about. I think, and it was sort of rough in the campaign. There was some tensions between Bobby Kennedy and Nicole Shanahan that I don't know the details on, but I just think it's hard to know what the real story is, So I always think it's unfortunate when there's infighting.
Yeah.
It's like all of these people pretty much agree on the same fundamental issues. And so it works better when collectively we're all supporting each other towards it,
I love Nicole. I think like her story and her vulnerability is just really compelling. And I think she's like a very genuine person that would only speak up if she sincerely felt concerned about something. And I don't know Casey personally, but when I had her on my show, this was before she blew up.
Before she was
I was like, saw a tweet thread by her and I was like, that's an interesting tweet thread. It had like 15 likes or something when I saw it. And we had her on. And after she got off the couch, like my producer, Bree, and I looked at each other and we were like, I think that is the best interview that we've ever done. And I have like 1,500 episodes that I've done of Relatable.
Really?
There was something about her, like just how she explained things. And I have talked to hundreds and hundreds of people that I was like, I don't know. I just knew that from then on, it was going to be different for her, not because of my show, but just because of her. She's got a very captivating vision in way that she articulates it. So like I'm rooting for her success big time as Surgeon General. I mean, I don't know who else I would want in that position.
Well, that's the thing too. I'm like, when have we ever really gone this hard on anyone who's run? Like, do you even know who was the last Surgeon General? Do we know?
I don't know about Biden.
I don't. But so I like both women, and to me, I always look at these things as like a family issue. Like I feel like even all the way up to the top, the president, Elon, all these like feuds and stuff. To me, I just look at it like one big family where you have, you're going to have rough times and you just have to work through them the best and smartest way. And a lot of that is just being, openly honest and communicating.
Yeah. Okay, we were talking about Elon. What do you think about Elon in general? Very complicated figure.
Well, I love Elon because I can never decide what I think about him. And I talk about it all the time. I change my mind on him. Like even last night, we walked out front. I've been traveling for the past 10 days and there was the SpaceX launch, and it was like,
I saw that.
So beautiful, right?
Yes.
And our whole family was out watching it. And I'm like, oh gosh, now I love Elon again. Like it's such a space romantic.
Yeah.
I think for me, some of these people, it doesn't even matter what I think about him. I think he's a great character in this timeline. And I'm excited to see. I even like when I'm mad at him. And I like when he's crazy. And, he has unique opinions. And I think he's like one of the most brilliant minds of our generation. And I think we should sort of appreciate that even when we're annoyed
and confused.
By him.
I was very confused when he had conflict and beef with President Trump online. He went from saying that he loves Trump as much as any heterosexual man can love another man.
It's like
that
2 days
was like
before.
a few months ago or whatever. And then he said, after he exited Doge, he was like, Trump went to Epstein Island. Bye, because they were mad about the big, beautiful bill. Elon didn't want the big, beautiful bill. And of course, Trump did. And then Elon got back to, praising him. And apparently they reconciled. I don't know. But I'm like, okay, so did you reconcile with an actual pedophile? Or did you lie about him being an actual pedophile? Because both are really bad. Or maybe I'm just not thinking about it how Elon is thinking about it. I don't know.
I mean, it's hard to say. I think that was a crazy 48-hour cycle. But then I think too, like Elon's the same as any of us, that he gets worked up, he gets fired up and angry about whatever, who knows what was going on with them privately. He might've been really upset about how it was affecting his businesses, or he just does not think this is a good move. But like back in the day, not everyone had millions of people on a live, you know what I mean? Like we respond in real time and we make mistakes. I think he definitely made a mistake because I don't believe that he thinks Donald Trump is a pedophile. I think he regrets doing that. And I think it was a really bad look, but I also feel like we should give people grace. I've been in situations where I react in real time based on anger or whatever the emotion is. But I can't I can't really hate him. I think it was a bad move, and I think he regrets it. And like I said, he's a great character. For someone tracking culture, there is never a dull moment in this administration. We are all aging by the day.
Yeah, that is very true. Next sponsor is Good Ranchers. We've got 4th of July coming up. I love the 4th of July. One of my favorite things to do is to grill out. I love hamburgers. I love steak. I love grilled chicken on the grill. It is so good. Get all of your meat from Good Ranchers to celebrate America's birthday. You need American meat to celebrate America. It just makes sense. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Get Good Ranchers delivered to your front door every month. You don't have to worry about going to the grocery store, trying to figure out, is it high quality? Where does this meat even come from? 85% of grass-fed beef in grocery stores is imported from abroad. So get your meat from Good Ranchers, an America-loving, God-loving, family-owned company that is dedicating to helping American farms and ranches. When you use my code Allie at checkout, you get $40 off your order. That's goodranchers.com/Allie, code Allie. Speaking of conflict, can you tell me where it stands between you and Candace Owens?
I think, we obviously had a very public feud that I wasn't anticipating. And I think it got spun a certain way based on missing facts. And it involves, a friendship with my best friend and another former employee who I just think, I wasn't able, I realized at a certain point I was not able to share the details of it. And so you learn the hard way that the truth isn't always an option. And so I just really kind of got steamrolled by a version of it that was not the full truth. But I mean, as far as how I feel about Candace, I think she's brilliant. I've always thought that. I don't always agree with her. A lot of times I do agree with her. I feel like she is an ally in so many of these major issues. But again, I just see a pattern of conflict that is just not what I'm interested in. I think I find humor and sort of humility in conversation and discussion, and I just don't want anything to do with sort of that combative cycle,
What would you say if because I don't even remember. I remember trying to follow the back and forth.
It was really hard to follow.
There were a lot of different things, like listening to her and looking at your stories. And if she said, okay, but you came at me first, Jessica. I liked you, and you came at me first. You criticized. I don't even remember exactly what it was. So, because I got a lot of messages saying, please ask her about this.
Well, yeah.
And
I think everyone's confused, and I get it, but I just have to sort of accept it because it's one of those things I can't share all the details on because my personal issues got spun into it when it really shouldn't have been. It was really sort of unfair, I think. But yeah, I think I'm allowed to I think it all stemmed from a very mild article where I was talking about who we trust in media, which is, I think about it all the time, even with myself, who do I trust now? And I think I'm at a weird place where I don't actually know what's real, Mm. So I wrote this article and I just feel like I'm allowed, like anyone, to criticize media personalities. I was saying, I don't even remember what I wrote. It was very mild, but I just sort of went through these different personalities and I guess I was thinking out loud, which is what I do a lot in my newsletters. I go through things I'm contemplating or struggling with in real time. And so it kind of became this back and forth. And I had so much going on that I wasn't fully paying attention to how it was being portrayed and perceived and sort of spun from her angle. And I offered to go on her show. I called her. I wanted to talk to her and she didn't take my calls. So at a certain point I realized she really wasn't interested in hearing me out. And so it just, I have to trust at the end of the day that my intentions will speak for themselves. I really believe in what I do and I try my best every single day to put out what I feel is beneficial to the internet, like the strangers on the internet. I want everyone to feel more informed and entertained by whatever I'm doing. So I have no grudge. I think she's very good at what she does. And it's very different mediums. Like she has a studio and a team where they sort of, help her address people, and it's a big audience. I sit in a room by myself and write, and not everybody wants to read 20-minute articles about some of these things. So we reach people in different ways, and I just think it's hard.
Well, here's the question. Do you think Emmanuel Macron is married to his brother, a man? Because I don't know, like that series is fascinating.
It really was.
And like so well researched. And just like, do you think that Brigitte Macron is a man?
I thought the series was amazing. I promoted that series like crazy because I thought it was done so well, and it was like, it makes you think about it all differently, right? But
politics is gross. That's what I mean. I think at the end of the day, there's so much that we don't know about a lot of people. I walked away thinking, I think it's possible. Like I think it's like
I'm with you.
Possible.
I think it's possible, but I'm still like more grossed out by Hunter Biden's laptop by what I saw on that.
Yeah, that's really
these politicians.
Too. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of ugliness when it comes to royalty, when it comes to politics, a lot of political dynasties that we don't know that probably would shock us. You follow the British royalty.
I love
very
them,
closely,
yes.
Right? Okay. Do you think that the hatred of Meghan Markle is totally justified, or do you think any of it is blown out of proportion?
No, I think it's justified. Yeah, because I do watch them so closely. I watched how it happened, and I saw mistake after mistake being made on their end. And I just think, it's still continuing right now. There is lack of self-awareness there. I don't think the timing and each of their decisions, and just I think to publicly drag the family into that whole drama of like, the racism claims and stuff. It was just really, It was really messy. And I think that sort of set a really bad tone where it's like they were trying to break free, but they looked miserable while they were doing it. And they were doing like, you want privacy, but then you actually want documentaries and podcasts and all these things. So I think nothing about them seems genuine. And when you don't seem genuine at all, people don't take you seriously. Mm-hmm. And so I think, I don't think it is exaggerated. I think that's just not, it's like you want the title of the royals, but you don't want any of the responsibility or duty that comes with that. And so it's like you're a fraud, right? Like you want to capitalize and profit off of a title, but then you're going to drag the family title through the mud. Like it just, and for a royalist like myself, it was, I thought it was messy and tacky.
Okay, I saw some video going around on X of her in the hospital room, dancing while pregnant. And I thought a lot of people saying like she was faking the pregnancy. It doesn't look like a real pregnant belly. I kind of thought that was silly. I'm like, I think it looks like a real pregnant belly. I mean, I don't mind the criticism of her, but sometimes I'm like, okay, people are just like looking for things to come up with.
So not all these conspiracies I like. I don't like the fake pregnancy stuff. That was definitely her pregnant in the hospital. To me, I thought it was sort of cringy because, again, they made such a big deal about privacy, but now you're releasing your most private home videos for the internet to see because you want to sell your show or your jam or honey, whatever she's making. They're sort of silly, right? Like I think when you look at the contrast between what William and Kate are doing, which is really, owning those roles, and they have managed to really secure this image that role demands. And then I think you see these other, the brother. And I think people don't like seeing Diana's boys fighting. Yeah. Okay, we like feel some sort of connection to them. And
protectiveness.
We don't want as a mother, you don't want to see, you don't want your kids to grow up and not like each other. So I just think the whole thing's sad. I liked when they were all getting along for those 2 weeks, or whatever it was.
You wish he would have married someone else?
Yeah. I think.
Do you have someone in mind
that I think Harry should have married?
Yeah.
well, was her name Chelsea? Who was the blonde? I liked them together.
I don't really know anything about it. I mean,
you have to Google when we get off.
There's part of me that does. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just like subject to the propaganda or, a victim of the propaganda. There's sometimes I do feel bad for her because I just feel like she's trying so hard to be relatable and likable, and it just doesn't come naturally for her. I just think she comes across like she doesn't like people, and she's trying to pretend like she likes people, and I'm like, then just go be an introvert. Just go do that. I actually think people could respect that more if they were like, we want privacy, and they went off by themselves and didn't talk to people.
Oh yeah,
but we want privacy, but also I'm so warm and I welcome people into my home every day. But I obviously am like super annoyed by these people who are right by me. I don't know. There's part of me that like feels bad.
I think you're very nice and you're giving her the benefit of the doubt, which is so sweet. But no, I could spend an hour on, we should have just had me on just for Meghan Markle. No, just like even naming the baby after his grandmother who never, met the baby. And those last, months of her life was fraught with family conflict, because like I could go on and on. I just don't think, like I always say, like, one of my kids is going to end up with a Meghan Markle. Like, I'm so scared. Like, I just don't think these are the type of women I love.
See, that's why you got to believe in praying. You got to pray.
I have to pray for a Kate.
Yes, we have to pray for the right spouse for your kid.
I mean, it makes a difference with, boys or like whoever they marry is very influential as to how your relationship as adults. So
totally.
I mean,
yeah.
Gotta hope these boys are smart.
Yes. Good. Okay. How old are your kids now?
Arlo is 19, okay. Leon is 16, Rex is 15, and Hayes just turned 11.
Okay. Oh my goodness. A house of like teenage and pre-teen
It's so
boys.
fun. I love it. Yeah. I love this age.
Every Life is America's only pro-life diaper company, which is just a crazy statement when you think about it. I mean, every diaper company should be pro-life. Unfortunately, they're not. A lot of the major diaper companies donate your dollars to pro-abortion politicians and organizations. You don't have to worry about that with Every Life. They are donating dollars to pregnancy centers. They are supporting their pregnant and adopting employees, and they make amazing products. We use Every Life diapers in our home. They work really well, totally clean materials, and they also now have shampoo, baby wash, and lotion. It's all tear-free. It is all dermatologist tested. It smells really good, and it works really well on your baby's sensitive skin. Go to everylife.com. Use code Allie10. You'll get 10% off your first order. That's everylife.com, code Allie10. Okay, Karen Reed trial.
I know, do we have a verdict?
I know right now we're waiting for the verdict. We don't have a verdict yet. So by the time this comes out, I'm sure that we will. But tell us what drew you to this case.
Well, actually, I ignored the case. I overlooked it because I was still finishing up politics, and I was just getting into figuring out what White House access looks like, So I opted out of that trial, but then the last week I was in New York, I spent a full day watching all the documentaries and catching up. And then I joined, how great it is when you have an online community. I started a chat in Substack, and I had all my readers catch me up. So then I was obsessed because I didn't realize it involved sort of like this whole small town conflict. Like people are really divided over it, families, towns, people. So it had all these layers. And so I got in very late, but now I get it now. Like I get why everybody is so invested. And she absolutely, based on all evidence I've seen, is innocent. And this is all part of a really corrupt small town cover-up. So we are waiting right now to see if the jury feels the same way.
Okay, tell us, can you fill in some details for those who have no idea what this is?
Oh, they don't know who Karen Reed is?
Yeah.
Basically, she's accused of killing her husband. The accusation is that she backed into him in the snow, and he died from that. But most of the evidence points to a different way of death.
Yeah.
And so many things don't add up. So it's like there's so much, but There's no point of impact on his body and, issues with his phone temperature and when he was found. And then it was a house party full of drunken cops.
So do you think that the verdict will agree with you? Do you think the jury will agree with you?
Well, that's the thing. We as soon as we reach this point, it's so intense because now when you're emotionally invested in a trial, you're on edge right now. Everyone's on edge over this verdict. And I polled my audience and they were 90, I think it was between 80 and 90%. They believe she's not guilty. So as of right now, the jury's asking some questions that are kind of tossing our, we don't know where they stand right now, but it is crazy how it's mirroring her last trial because this is a retrial. So if they go the same way and it's a hung jury, it's like, does that go a third time to try? Like, do we pay for a third trial for this woman?
Wow. I'm so interested now.
No, oh my gosh, I should have put you on the chat.
Well, now I need to go back.
Yeah.
And I need to look at all the details because I really haven't been following closely. Sometimes I feel like there's just like too much in the world to follow.
Well, if you follow that HBO documentary, A Body in the Snow, is really, really good. And it shows both sides. It talks to all parties. I know.
Sometimes documentaries are like, they obviously have an agenda.
I don't recommend many of them because I feel like they have an agenda, and if it's done well,
something to watch.
Yeah, no, you'll love it. It's a series. I think there's 5 of them. It's really, really well done.
So Vanity Fair recently did a profile on you, and I thought that it was kind of rude and belittling. They, said journalist and report. They put it in scare quotes, but obviously you're reporting on stories that a lot of people in the mainstream media aren't. And so like, what is your reaction or response when Vanity Fair or other journalists try to kind of like diminish you?
With Vanity Fair, it's more comical because it was so snarky, right? It was very petty. I felt like it was like high school mean girl. And the fact that they write so frequently about me is sort of weirdly flattering. Like they care that much about who I'm fighting with. But I think it doesn't hurt me at all. My readers are not the people who are tuning into or waiting for Vanity Fair to tell them what they think really about anything. So, the last one was really rude. They brought in some of the gross remarks Laura Loomer wrote about me. Mm. To me, that wasn't a story, but...
Why do you think you scared them so much? Like, why do they care?
Well, I think because we're in a period of shifting media. There's a war among media where the trust is shifted to independent, channels and personalities. And so a lot of people I hear, they associate me with like what Vanity Fair used to be, where it is, society scenes and gossip, but it's also hardcore reporting. And I am getting stories that, maybe they would have gotten in the past. I think there's a competitive, obviously, I can't figure out what else it could be. There's a competitive aspect to it. And I think they are resentful over, like the shifting of the guards. Like sadly, people don't read magazines anymore. Mm-hmm. I miss them personally, but I think that their goal is to constantly dismiss me and sort of ridicule me, so that in the hopes that everybody sees what a fraud of a mommy. What do they call it? Like a mommy blogging alt-right conspiracy theorist, RFK fangirl.
All the labels.
Oh, and
how do you deal with like the emotional toll of not just taking criticism, but also diving into these super dark stories?
Well, that's a good question. They do affect me differently. That's why, I mentioned pulling out of Britney Spears, the coverage there, because when it starts to get when it weighs me in a negative and sort of a dark way, I will usually kind of back away. And so that's why I am hesitant I am going to go into this murder case in August, the Brian Kohberger murder of these young college kids. And I do know in the past when I've covered murder, it is very taxing, Yes. It's different than, I love like covering parties and going sailing on campaign. I like all the lightness, but I think, it puts you in a different space.
Mm-hmm.
mentally.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to hear that you are on your journey of like reading the Bible, even if that's not something that you share in detail with everyone. I know that you you were talking about like a House Inhabit Bible study on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to send you probably already have a Bible, but I send a lot of people my favorite study Bible. I don't know if you already have like a study Bible.
I could use all the help.
Okay, I'm going to send it to you. And I do this for a lot of guests because for me, like when I started really digging into the Bible 15 years ago or so, I needed help understanding. Like, okay, what does this verse mean? This sounds super weird. And obviously the commentary is just written by people. And so it's somewhat of an opinion, but it's careful. It's really careful, the commentary. So I'm going to send you one of my favorite books, and then I'll send you an ESV study Bible. And yeah, not that I don't know nearly close to everything about Christianity, but of course, if you ever have any questions or just want to talk about things, I'm here. And you've got a lot of people in this audience who are praying for you.
Oh, thank you.
Truly. And that was the other question that I got. Can you ask her like where she is and her spiritual journey, because like people just love you and they're rooting for you, and
it's so incredible.
They know that you cover dark things. And so it's like for us who are Christians, we're like, gosh, I couldn't do this if it weren't for the hope of Jesus and knowing that good will triumph in the end because of him. And so, yeah, just a lot of people are thinking of you.
Well, that means so much. And I do feel it. I have the best people behind me. And I do feel it. So I'm always appreciative of prayers and support.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I know you don't do like a ton of interviews, so I feel honored. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.